Hi, Jackie. Very nice to meet you, and thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I am absolutely fabulous, and thank you, Joseph, for inviting me. It's a real pleasure.
Thanks again for being here, Jackie. I really appreciate it. Jackie, before we get into it, can you tell me a bit about yourself, how you discovered carnivore? How did it all start for you?
Oh wow! So it's a long story. It's been a long time, but yeah. So I'm Jackie. I'm, as you can probably hear from my accent, I'm in the UK. I'm in England, and I have twins. I live just outside London, and it started for me 9 years ago. Not carnivore 9 years ago, but my journey started really. Well, the journey is always your whole life, isn't it? So I think if we go back a bit, I was always overweight. I always thought I couldn't do anything about it. Diets don't work, and what we need to do is eat less and move more. And every night I'd go to bed and I'd say, tomorrow's going to be different. Tomorrow I'm going to eat less and move more. And the next day would come and I didn't eat less. I couldn't, oh, well, yeah, I couldn't eat less and I wouldn't move more. So I just got in this cycle of, I can't do it. I'm no good. It doesn't work for me. I don't care about myself enough to do it. And then in 2017, I found low carb. Well, yeah, low carb, I'd say to start with. And then later on, towards the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, keto. And that's more or less where I've been for the last, well, low carb, I've been for the last 9 and a bit years. And everything started to shift. It's like, oh, it does work. You can lose weight and you can feel better. And so that's where it started. And then I think it was probably back in 2022, somebody said to me, well, why don't you try carnivore? And I did, and it was terrible. I hated it. I went from being keto to trying carnivore for 2 weeks. Now, my version of carnivore was 100% carnivore. Everything, anything plant-based went out. And I lasted about 2 weeks. And then I thought, right, this isn't for me. I like my vegetables too much. It isn't for me. And then I tried again, another 2 weeks. And then really over probably the last 3 years, something like that, I just gradually eased myself into it by having less and less vegetables. I'm not totally carnivore now, but I'm probably fairly, fairly carnivore. I do come off plan at times when I'm on holiday and things like that. So I'm not 100%, but yeah, I found a place where I think this works for me. So over time, I used to get really bad migraines. I would have a migraine almost every other day, which were very debilitating, and I had to take very strong medication. After my kids were born, I have twins, and after they were born, about 3 weeks later, I started to get gallstones, so really bad pain. And I decided that 3 weeks after a cesarean section, they wanted me to have another operation, and I said no. So I then started to heal myself, and that took a long time, very long time. But so that was in 2003 that I did that, and then the gallstones came back again in 2010. So I went through the whole journey again. But since I've been low carb, it's been much more manageable. I rarely get any gallstone pain. So yeah, it's a good place to be, I think.
Yeah, Jackie, that's pretty awesome. So, how long did you do the study for? Like, or maybe research? It took me some time to pretty much like look up keto and carnivore, yeah, together, right? Like it took me some time for keto, it took me some time for carnivore. Before jumping onto it, like before trying them, like yeah, how long did you do the research for?
I didn't. I found out about low carb and I just tried it. I didn't know what I was doing. I basically, when I first started, basically what I did was I cut out wheat, which included pasta, cookies, cakes, anything like that. Anything that had wheat in it, it went. I cut out potatoes, and that was probably about it. So I was still eating bits of chocolate. I've never been a massive chocolate eater. I was eating high carb veg. I was eating peas and corn a lot of the time. Loads of food. I still lost weight. So, I've lost 56 pounds, something like that. Probably could have lost more if I'd done some more research. Then with the keto, I just tried things. I did intermittent fasting. Then later on, I just brought in, but I never really researched it. And then it was more learning from podcasts. And then I started to get some qualifications. So I did a certificate in ketogenic diet. I did the Nutrition Network, nutrition advisor. I've done primal health coaching, kilts, carnivore coaching. So these are all different things that have just come over time. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, so you're pretty well versed, like with all the ketogenic world and the whole nutrition and everything. Who were the first people did you heard this from, or were there any specific? Like me, I've heard it from Dr. Chafee, and then I've heard so much stories, from Dave Mack's channel about the zero carb life. I heard Bella. Were there any specific people you heard this from?
Well, the first person I'm not going to say because he's persona non grata, and so he doesn't get mentioned anymore. But I was probably doing this before. Those people were around, or prominently around. So I would say, let's see, Daisy Brackenhall, Keto Woman podcast was one. The Two Keto Dudes, and Dr. Berry. He wasn't carnivore at the time. He was just doing keto. They were probably the main ones. And then I started my own podcast back in 2020. So then I was just talking to lots of people. I think we're on episode. I'm not prolific in putting episodes out. But it's been 5.5 years now and near enough 300 episodes. So I've spoken to a lot of people, from famous people that we know in the space, including Anthony Chafee and Ken Berry, to people that are just people like you and me who've made massive changes to their lifestyle and are feeling the benefits of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Really glad, we're doing this, speaking to people and spreading awareness. Have you tried like different diets, like, because you mentioned like you started with low carb back in 2017 and then you went keto 2018. Have you tried like other diets, maybe like paleo, or I think another common one was the Atkins, or anything similar? Or have you also tried like maybe vegan in the past?
Okay, so diets, in terms of diets over the years, I've probably done many of them. I probably started slimming, not Slimming World, what's the other one? WeightWatchers when I was about 12 or 13. So I even started then and tried so many different things. I think one might have been Scarsborough. I did the shakes, the Cambridge diet, the F-plan diet, all different things until I got to about 30 and I thought, diets don't work. As I said before, what I need to do is eat less and move more. But that didn't work either. And then I just thought it was me. I was the problem. And I didn't have the motivation. I could never do anything for more than about 3 weeks anyway. So I never lost huge amounts of weight. So I just thought, I can't diet. It's not for me. But that permeated out into my whole life in the sense of I felt like I'd had no motivation. So I didn't try lots of things in my life, not just about food. It's sort of like, I can't do it. I can't sustain it. That isn't my personality. And that was a real shame, because I probably could have done a lot more if I'd understood that it was about the food and what we're eating and how our body processes that, rather than me being at fault. It wasn't, it wasn't my fault really. And so then I never quite got to vegan. I once thought I'd try macrobiotics, but that didn't last very long. I didn't like that. I'd done vegetarian for about 9 months and then was really craving meat, so went back to meat. I've done wheat free for again about 9 months, and then I just love bread so much. And then so once I started eating bread again, then I couldn't stop. And I knew, so I've got behind me this wheat belly, and I read that in about 2009 or 2010, something like that. So I knew wheat was addictive. I knew it affected the same parts of the brain as cocaine and alcohol and things like that. But I just couldn't stop eating it. I just loved it so much. And I thought I could never live without it again. So that was a massive step for me when I went low carb. Then about the year before, 2016, I read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Body. And he was basically promoting a low carb diet. And so I tried that, and I was about 3 weeks in, and I met this doctor, and he was going, "Oh no, you mustn't do that. Sorry, I'll start that again. You mustn't do that. You need carbs. You've got to have carbs." Well, I didn't need any excuse for someone to tell me to be able to eat potatoes and bread. So I went back to eating potatoes and bread. But unfortunately, over that year, I think I put on another 14, 18 pounds, something like that. It's just massive amounts in 1 year. It was really massive. So by 2017, I was my heaviest I'd ever been, other than when I was full term with twins.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's quite a journey, trying different diets and also trying, it's just different ones. I feel like carnivore, I hear this from so many people who have tried both keto and carnivore, that they notice the changes, like some of them like instantaneous, or some of them just like gradually. What about for you in your experience? Like, did you experience the changes, the benefits of changing to this lifestyle? Did you experience it gradually, or was it like instantaneous?
I think gradually my migraine started to get less and less. The gallstones, I'd mostly got that under control. But it would flare up every now and then. And that was quite often if I ate something like bolognese or a curry or something like that, where I tend to overeat. So if I was eating too much, or something spicy like chili con carne, something like that. At that time, I never had the beans. It was just the meat and the spices. But something like that would flare it up. But it just over time got less. The weight started to come off almost immediately, but slowly. But like I say, I was still eating quite a lot of carbs, and I was still eating a lot of food. And so for me, it's been a gradual time and a gradual trending down, less and less carbs, less and less food, and making that transition slowly, which I think for me makes it sustainable.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think one of the challenges I had back then, like starting carnivore, was the cravings. And I had to get it out of my system for for over a year, you know. But because I had so many favorite food that I didn't want to give up. So, what was your favorite food back then?
Pasta and bread, I would say. I would say they're my two, and potatoes. So dinner for me in the evening was meat and potatoes and one vegetable. So when I transitioned, I changed to meat and two vegetables rather than the potatoes. But those three things, the bread, the pasta, I really love pasta. Well, I thought I did. I'm not so sure about it now, but the bread, the pasta, and the potatoes were the big things for me. While I was low carb, I was still eating a bit of chocolate, not massive amounts. I'd still eat some ice cream, but not. There's one ice cream shop that was near us, and we would go especially to have it. It's the only one I really liked. So I wasn't particularly bothered by ice cream, just that one shop. And then I think I must have been about a year in, something like that, and the shop closed. So that was really helpful. I sort of missed the ice cream, but it was really helpful that it's not available anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yep, I can pretty much relate to that one. I think ice cream one was one of the things that's like really hard to get for me.
Yeah.
So Jackie, you know, what keep you motivate? I mean, what keeps you motivated now? Like, you know, with your journey with the keto, is it like creating awareness, helping people, maybe, you know, providing research, inspiring others in the community? Or are you frustrated with the current medical approach, the guidelines, the nutrition? Yeah.
Well, you have better guidelines now. We still have the, as Zoe Harcum says, the eat hell plate. So we still have all the bad guidelines. I have been not very trusting of the medical profession for a long time, more than 20 years. So for me, that didn't really impact me. So my thing is about, so what keeps me motivated? Well, one of the key things, in fact, in my group today was I put out a question of what keeps you coming back to choosing to eat well. And people were answering and saying how I feel so much better. So that is partly it. Even so, sometimes I will come off plan if I'm going on holiday, something like that. I might do that, but by the end of the week or whatever time I'm away, I'm ready to get back to it because I feel so much better. I don't eat as much in terms of quantity of food, and it just makes you feel better. So for most of the time, I'm very happy to stick with it most of the time. And I do have little lapses. This weekend coming up, we have a family party, and I might eat some things that are not what I call not supportive.
Yeah.
So I've got an event coming up this weekend, and I know it will be a challenge for me to stay on plan, and I might choose not to stay on plan. But I also know that come Monday, I'll be back to it because that's where I feel best. And the other thing that keeps me motivated is I have a community, I have a group, I have coaching clients. And so I need to show up for them. I run the podcast. So all these things keep me focused and keep me wanting to carry on. And I don't want to go back to I don't want to go back to the weight I was in 2017. And I don't want to go back to how I felt because, well, with the weight, it was really hard to move around. If you're carrying an extra 56 pounds, that's a lot of weight to carry around. And then the other thing is, you know, climbing the stairs was an effort. I used to have to haul myself up the stairs. I'd avoid going up the stairs if I could, whereas now I'll run up. It's easy. It takes me 30 seconds and I'll just go up the stairs. So those sorts of things, I don't want to go back to that sluggish, heavy physically, but heavy mentally as well. I don't want to go back to that place. So that keeps me motivated and keeps me moving forward. And then the other side of it is my kids are a lot younger than me. I had them when I was 40. So I don't want to grow old and be in a old age home where they won't want to come and see me, because who wants to go and visit in an old age home? Nobody does. I don't want to be that person that's stuck in an old age home going from hospital appointment to hospital appointment with things going wrong and not having, as I say, not being able to wipe my own butt. That, you know, that loss of independence. I don't want that life. I might get that, you know, you never know what's going to happen. I might get that, but I'm doing everything that I can to avoid it now, so that in 20 years' time, I'm alive, I'm active, I'm enjoying my life. I call it fit for life and fit for living, where you can do the things that you want to do. And that for me is key. So it's partly not wanting to go back, but partly looking at how I want to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely, Jackie. You know, when I started Carnivore, even though like I did like long research because you know I doubted it so much, but have you had like mistakes during the beginning? You know, switching to keto and then carnivore, like what were they? And like, if you have any mistakes, like, you know, I think some people experience keto flu or oxalate dumping, and then maybe some mistakes with like the way, like me, like I was cooking my food with seed oils, you know, things like that. Did you have any mistakes in the beginning?
One of the things that you said about just earlier on, and that reminded me just as you started talking there, was I think that one of the huge benefits for me was about a month in from going low carb. I was on holiday with some friends, and one of my friends is a nurse, or she was a nurse she lectured in the university, and she ran departments in the university. And I told her what I was doing, and I said, I'm a bit worried about the fat, because we get told that fat's bad for you and fat's not good for you. And she said, don't worry about it. She said, I do low carb. It's absolutely fine. And I think with that reassurance, that kept me, okay, I can do this. So I think that was a key point for me, was getting past. I was never one of those people to cut fat. I always loved butter. I always ate the skin of the chicken. I always ate the fatty bits of the lamb. So, but in my head, I was thinking, well, this is not good for you. You're creating heart disease down the line. You're going to get sick because you don't look after yourself, because you're eating all these bad foods. So when I found out that I can eat those foods with impunity and not worry about it so much, then I was just in heaven. So the fatty bits of the lamb, the skin on the chicken thighs, because I don't really like chicken breast, butter, lots of butter. So they were all good for me. I didn't have keto flu because I'd gone through a very long transition of cutting down. So I didn't do that. I probably didn't eat a lot of seed oils anyway. So at home we always use butter and olive oil were the main oils that we used. And yeah, I don't think, no oxalate dumping that I know about.
That's pretty good. Yeah. I think I spoken to a couple of carnivores also that yeah, didn't experience it. Just assuming like, you know, maybe sometimes later on, but who knows, right? Jackie, so what does a typical day or week of eating look like for you now? Do you mix it up, or do you stay consistent with food, or maybe you can walk me through?
Yeah. So more recently, it's been quite often lunch will be something like, it might just be a can of sardines. It might be some sardines and some eggs. It could be just eggs today. Today I had eggs mixed with some onion and some butter. So I'm not, as I said, I'm not totally carnivore, but mostly. I'm trying to think what else I might do for lunch. I might have some. One of the things I really love, and I don't do it very often, is to take slices of cheese, that come pre-sliced, and put in some raw ground beef and some salt, and then just roll it up, and then I eat the raw ground beef in cheese. But I might just have some steak. It might be half a steak, it might be a whole steak, it might be some beef burgers that I've made, something like that. And then for supper, it is very often chicken, or not so much, but if my husband's making chicken, I'll have some of that. Lamb chops are my absolute favourite, so I had them last night. I got them tonight as well. And with that, I will have some sauerkraut, homemade sauerkraut. I've recently started having, I make my own yogurt, a rotisserie yogurt. So I'm trying to have that almost every day. So I'll have some yogurt, and then treats might be some Kilt's ice cream, something like that. Mostly, I think if I'm going to have some vegetables, then it is usually sauerkraut. Not to say that I wouldn't eat some vegetables, but I just mostly don't.
So Jackie, looking back at my health issues, like I had so many assumptions, right? Like, I had skin issues like psoriasis. I also gained weight. I'm thinking, this all started maybe because I'm very stressed at work, or maybe I'm very stressed, with life in general, or maybe there's a specific food trigger. What about for you? Like, did you had any assumption what was causing the weight gain and other health issues that comes up? Yeah.
I didn't really. The migraine thing I'd been having since I was about 27, and I had tried so many explorations into why do they come, what's it about, how can I change it. Over the years, I tried so many different therapies, from kinesiology, fasting. So I once did a retreat where all I could have was fruit juice and broth for a week with colonic irrigation. I've tried acupuncture, Chinese medicine, which is disgusting. It's really foul. So over the years, I tried all sorts of things because they were so debilitating and so painful as well. And I had to take this medication. If I didn't have the medication, I would be ill, like physically sick. So I was always looking for what is it? Why is this going wrong? In terms of weight, you're too young to know, but some of your older listeners might remember the detective called Cannon. He was massive, and my granddad's nickname was Cannon because he was so big, and my dad was overweight, and I was overweight, so that just sort of felt like that's normal for my family. And in fact, I'm still overweight now. I could do with losing another 30 pounds, maybe more. So that I never really thought about that, because I just thought, that's me. I'm overweight. I'm an overweight person, or I'm too short for my weight, all those sorts of things. Then when I got the gallstones, again, it's like, why is this happening? What's causing it? And what can I do that doesn't involve any medical intervention? Because they told me the only thing you can do is have your gallbladder out. Now, I know we can live without a gallbladder. I know there's lots of bits of our body that we can live without. But in my mind, our bodies are created perfectly, and we need all the bits. They're there for a reason, and they should be left there. And I didn't want to have parts of me cut out. So I was always looking for, how can I do this? Now, unfortunately, because I probably made it worse, what I came across and what I learned through trial and error was very low fat, almost no fat. And I lived off of, for a period of time, all I lived off was ham and this green soup made of green beans and broccoli. And I lost a lot of weight at that point, but basically because I wasn't nourishing myself, and my body just couldn't do anything, because I wasn't eating enough. I wasn't eating the right foods. Maybe I caused even a bigger problem. I don't know, but it was the only way I could manage not getting the gallstones stuck. I did a lot of gallbladder flushes, which is drinking olive oil and then going to bed. It's a whole procedure, and I still do that sometimes now. In fact, I did a gallbladder flush about a month ago, so I will still do it, but it comes from a different place now. It's a place of clearing rather than needing to, which I did do at the time I needed to do it. Yeah, I just think, for me, it's always, the doctors seem to think, take this pill or cut this bit out and you'll be fine. And that's rarely the case that happens. And usually when you're having a pill, then all of a sudden you need another one to make it better. And so I feel much better now that I'm not taking the migraine pills that I was taking. I wasn't taking them regularly. I'd only take them when I had a migraine. But the migraines were so often, I was having pills very often. So once I cleared them from my system, I just felt so much better. And I haven't had a migraine pill in over 4 years now, more than 4 years, where I was having them several times a week before.
Wow, that's amazing to hear. I'm glad you're off meds and thriving. Jackie, if you had to describe the impact of carnivore and keto in your life, what one word would you describe it, and tell me why?
Fabulous. That's the name of my company, Fabulously Keto. But fabulous because I just feel fabulous. I never felt like that before. I never felt fabulous. I felt okay. And now most of the time I feel fabulous. So yeah, that's my word.
That's awesome. Yeah. So knowing what you know now about, the nutrition, this lifestyle, if you can give an advice to someone who might have who might be going through a similar issue, or maybe they have a chronic pain and they see that, you're doing so well with this keto lifestyle, but at the same time, they're thinking, oh, this is probably too close to that thing I heard about carnivore. I might get a heart attack or a heart disease. What would you tell them?
Lots of things. One is you don't have to go from where you are now to carnivore, for example. It's really hard. In fact, I had somebody message me the other day and saying, I'm really struggling. I've done 6 days of carnivore and I'm really struggling. And I said, well, where were you before that? And she was on a standard Western diet. So it's not surprising that it's hard. So just start slow, go easy and work your way. And I call it the low carb spectrum, where you start a low carb. No, not everyone can do this. Some people, I've had clients that have to go full on carnivore straight away because they're very sick and they probably need to just eliminate everything. But if you're not sick, if you're not that sick, then just go slowly. So I call it the low carb spectrum. So it's start with low carb, move to keto. Then you might, depending on your health issues, you might need to try a therapeutic style keto, which is, much higher fat, much ketones. And then you can just start eliminating vegetables over time if you can. Now, some people can't. Some people find that they have to abstain from certain foods, and then that's what you need to do. Some people find that they do better if they can moderate. It just depends on each individual person, but I think you have to know yourself, and I think you have to know why you're doing this and what you want to achieve. If you don't have a clear picture of where you're going and you're just thinking, I'm just going to try this, you won't see it through. So you need a good reason as to why you're doing it. And then I can't remember what the other part of the question was, but I think, there are plenty of people out there that can help you. When I started keto, most people had never even heard of the word. There were a few podcasts. There wasn't very many, very little on YouTube. So now it's everywhere. You can find so many groups, so many things on Facebook. There wasn't much around in 2016, 2017. So it's only in the last 10 years that things have come along and things have changed. And now people can find, and now people can find things fairly easily. And, some people can do it on their own. Some people need support, accountability. One of the things that I find is people get overwhelmed by what they should be doing. Then they find that they lack the consistency, and then it's really hard on your own. So in my group, these are the 3 things we focus on: is overcoming the overwhelm and finding out what works for you, not for me and not for you, but what works for you as a person, which might not work for anyone else. And then the other thing is, how do you stay consistent with that? And that's what I try to do in my group. And then we're a community, so we help each other, we support each other. If you're trying to do it at home with no one around you that believes you or trusts you. And then in terms of, being scared of fat and having a heart attack, is you have got to find the resources that you need to convince yourself that what you're doing is safe. I am very convinced. I've had a CAC scan, a calcium artery scan. It was a long time ago now, but I've had my arteries scanned. So I know they're absolutely clear. I am absolutely 100% happy that my arteries, that I'm not killing myself. I don't care that my cholesterol is high. Some people worry about those things, but you have to find your way to convincing yourself that it's a safe way of eating. Joseph, I look at it through this lens. What would we have eaten 20,000 years ago? We didn't cultivate crops. There was no wheat. We would have eaten things on the land. We would have hunted animals. We would have found a few berries. We would have gorged on those berries in the 3 weeks from August to September to sustain us through the winter. We would have put fat. We would have made some of the meat and the fat that would last longer. These are the things that we would have done, and this is how we got now millions of years down the line. But isn't it funny that we have all this wonderful medicine that everybody talks about is so fantastic, We've got all this food processing, and yet we're the sickest we've ever been. And so in the last 100 to 150 years, we've gone from being maybe more, maybe a few thousand years, we've gone from being healthy human beings to really sick human beings. And that makes me very sad.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Jackie. I think two things I want to point out. I agree that, still a lot of people are not familiar with keto and carnivore. I think, I still get new friends, and, I meet some new people, and then they would say, like, what are you doing again? Are you doing what? You're doing carnivore? So I still get that. And the other thing is that I really like that you said that, it's not about what's working for me or what's working for you. It's this person, it's for each individual. Keto might be working for you, carnivore might be working for you, or something in between. It could be, that's the best thing for you. So I think that's really the best approach. Jackie, so is there anything hard about this lifestyle for you? Examples for me would be social gatherings with family and friends, the travel, and the cravings I mentioned in the beginning. Are your kids, are they pretty much adapting to this lifestyle as well, or did you face skepticism initially from friends and family?
Yes, skepticism from friends and family, definitely. My boys are now 23, so they do what they want. But I've been doing this for a long time now, so they've seen how I am. They've seen how I've changed. They've maybe they don't even remember how big I was. That's a possibility, that they don't remember that. And they're twins. They're not identical twins, but they're twins. And it's very funny because one is very into a Western diet and the other one is much more focused on nutrition. He's not particularly low carb, but he's not particularly high carb either. And he will make sure he gets a lot of his nutrition from protein and fat, even if he's still eating and drinking alcohol and things like that. He's doing things that kids do, absolutely fine. But the thing I think about is they have a role model that should they get sick at some point, they can think back. Now, one of my sons thinks I'm absolutely mad and he would never do it. But I'm hoping that one, should he need it, he would remember and he would do it. So what's hard for me is, I agree with you, social situations. So this event coming at the weekend will be a challenge. Holidays, I sort of not totally off plan, so I'll still mostly fast in the morning until lunchtime. I will try to have might not be carnivore, but more low carb maybe. I might have, I'll always choose meat over pasta, for example, something like that. But then I might have other things, like I might have an ice cream. I don't drink a lot of alcohol. I haven't done that for a long time, but mainly because of the migraines. I was so ill that I couldn't drink alcohol, so I've got used to not having it. But I might have a beer, which is not low carb at all, but that is my drink of preference. I don't have cravings, do kick in a little bit if I go higher carb when I'm on holiday, but they're the two things: holidays and events. And sometimes I'll just eat before I go to an event, and then I can just choose some cheese or something like that. I know I've had enough food to eat, and then the food at the event will be a more social, having something on your plate, and it might just be some cheese and some meat.
Yeah, I feel like that's the same approach for me. Like, before going to a gathering, I have to eat ahead of time before coming to that gathering. Yeah.
Yeah, I do that a lot. And then I was just going to say about hard. The thing about this way of living, what I say is it's very simple, but it's not easy. And the reason it's not easy is because our lives are not set up to eat this way. Everything around us, even just sitting in front of the television, not that I do sit in front of the television, but it's on and I can hear things. Books, everything is centered around food, and we're so pushed into eating processed food. And I think with the whole social construct is not set up for us to be healthy. I think they want us sick. I think they want us, I say, sick and stupid. So if you're sick, you can't be thinking around things that make you healthy. You're so caught up in your sickness. And if your brain is dulled and not working properly, then you can't think straight. I think that, I don't know if it's intentional, but it is a byproduct of what we've been eating. But the whole way that supermarkets are set up, if you go to a gas station with the food, you have to walk past all the bars of chocolate, and it's so set up for us to fail that it's not easy. It is hard, and you have to be very focused.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's how I feel also. I feel like, the way everything is set up, I feel like, well, me, I feel like, we're set up to fail. And,
Yeah.
I have a lot of conspiracy in my head. I've gone down the rabbit hole, especially during the COVID times. I think, particularly that time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Jackie, so my last question to you is your future outlook. How do you see this lifestyle? Maybe and the whole movement, the carnivore and the keto movement. Do you see how do you see this in 5 to 10 years? Do you see it being in a good light or in a bad light? The bad light meaning, we'll probably see a similar censorship during the COVID times, right? Or media pushback or the medical industry pushback. Maybe the meat prices are gonna skyrocket, and then at the same time, the good, we'll probably hear more people talk about this. They want to hear more stories, because we're seeing a lot of healing, remission, improvement. In health wise in general, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, really interesting question. So I see, so media, health industry, politics, all those things are not going to be in our favor. They want us in the status quo, and they don't want us to eat well, because eating well, if people are healthy, then there is no medical profession because people are healthy. So, that whole business model fails. If you're reliant on drugs, they want people sick and stupid, as I said. So there's going to be real pushback against it, as there is now, and as there has been for the last 10 years that I've been watching it. On the positive side, and then another negative side is, yes, I think they will put meat prices up. Not only that, they are doing, I don't know what it's like in the US, but here and in Europe, they're doing as much as they can to do away with farms and farming, and put solar panels on the fields, put data centers on the fields. So there is no meat for us. And they want to push us down the route where we're eating fake meat, fake food, keeping us sick and stupid again. That is going to be a big, big push. On the positive side, and going back to your health guidelines, I think in 5 years' time, it will get overturned and it will go back to what it was before. and I think your pyramid will flip back upside down. That's my prediction. But on the positive side, if we can influence enough people, and if people are seeing people improving in their health, you know, I've seen it in the last 10 years from people not knowing what keto is. Carnivore was never spoken about in that time, to seeing so many new people in the, you know, new people talking, you and Dave and Anthony Chafee, and, you know, Ken Berry was there, but he wasn't focused on carnivore. But Dr. Boz was around. But there's such a groundswell of people coming in and creating content and helping people, from young people through to older people. There's so much now that gives me hope that we can still reach people and we can still influence people. The issue I see is when we're in this industry, we only see a tiny part of the population, and a lot of the population, and particularly the young people, they want everything this quick now, and if they can take a pill and not change their life, then they'd rather do that. So I think that's a downside. But if we can create the momentum that we've done over the last 10 years and make that even greater, because now there's even more people here to get it out to even more people, you know, maybe there's hope for us.
Yeah, I like your outlook, Jackie. You know, I feel like, yeah, it's the same for me. I feel like there's hope, you know, that I can look at, and also kind of like somewhere in the middle where I'm just like worried. But yeah, it's a mix. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to have hope. You know, without hope, what's the point, really? So we just have to keep telling people, keep influencing people, keep helping people find their way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Jackie, if people want to reach out or connect with you, where's the best place to reach you?
The best place to reach me is actually on school.com, and then just search for Fabulous Low Carb Warrior. That's where I spend a lot of my time. The other place is, my website is fabulouslyketo.com, and then on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Fabulously Keto, and podcast is Fabulously Keto, and Instagram, unfortunately, somebody had grabbed that, so I'm Fabulously Keto 1.
Awesome, Jackie. I'm gonna make sure to post all of them in the description so people can reach you. Jackie, thank you so much again for joining me. It was a pleasure hearing your story and your journey. I appreciate you taking the time to share. Thank you.
Oh, it's absolutely fabulous. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you.